You've probably heard that faculty are going to strike. My name is Kate Osment, and I'm in the English and Modern Languages department, and I'm part of California Faculty Association's executive board at the Pomona chapter. I'm here to answer some of your questions and hopefully alleviate some of your concerns. The first question I usually get is who's involved. CFA represents all faculty, including instructional faculty, so the people who teach your classes, counselors, coaches, and librarians. So if we struck, that would mean that the library is closed, athletic events will not take place, counselors will not report to work, and no classes will be held. If your classes are in person, they will not be moved online. If you do have online classes, they will not be held. And if you have an asynchronous course, the instructor will probably black out some of the instruction modules to mimic not having class. What are we striking for? There's a lot of things. One of the biggest ones is we asked for a 12% raise to account for inflation in 2022 and 2023. Without a 12% raise, we effectively take a pay cut. They offered us 5% in return. That's it. We're asking for more counselors to put us in ratios that are recommended across the nation. Right now, CPP has a counselor to student ratio of 1 to 2,200, which is just too high. We're asking for our lowest paid lecturers to raise the floor on their salary. We have lecturers on campus who teach 10 classes a year and they only make $54,000 each. It's just not livable in Southern California, especially when you consider that these people have graduate degrees, including PhDs. We also ask for a semester of parental leave. Right now, we only get 30 days. You can imagine how disruptive it is to have a professor pop out of your classroom only for a month. It's really not doable, and most of us cannot afford to miss a semester's worth of pay. Management said no to everything that we asked other than offering us a 5% raise. We started bargaining back in May. At this point, there just isn't any options left. That's why we're voting to authorize a strike. The next question I get is, when is the strike? We're not exactly sure. The legal process that we're in is going to take several more weeks. If we authorize a strike, then we can call it at any point once we're legally able to. However, we won't necessarily do that. Our goal in authorizing the strike is hopefully to convince management to settle with us. We don't want to strike. It's our last and best option as laborers, but it's disruptive, they can withhold my pay, and considering that a lot of what we're asking for is compensation, you can see how living paycheck to paycheck would make that risky. So it'll probably happen perhaps in November, maybe December, but we will keep you updated as soon as we know more. One of the biggest questions I get is, will this affect my grades? And I understand. Each instructor is going to handle this in a way that makes sense for them. There isn't just one rule, because somebody who is missing an exam is going to have a different impact than somebody who's not. Every single class will be impacted in some way. Strikes by their nature are disruptive, but as your instructors, our goal is not to punish you through job action. Your instructors will work with you to come up with something equitable and fair. We hope that management sees this potential disruption and responds to it by bargaining with us so we don't have to strike to begin with. Specifically, people ask me if this is going to affect their final grades, especially if they're graduating or graduating soon. It is possible that if our job action lines up with finals, that we may have a delay in filing final grades. A delay does not necessarily mean that we will never file final grades. It means that there's going to be a delay. That could be very frustrating, and it's going to feel like we are withholding something from you. I want to emphasize again that this is our last option, and it is not something that we take lightly. Our goal is not to hurt our students in the long term, but the CSU has been slowly underfunding instruction for 20 years. 20 years ago, there were 34% fewer students at Cal Poly, and we actually had more permanent faculty than we do right now. We're simply begging them to invest in instruction and allow us to pay our bills. The only weapon we have at this point is job action, and so that's why we have to take it. But just like I said before, our goal is always to show up for our students. It's just that's going to look a little different in the short term. We don't know how long the strike is going to be for. Historically, the longest strike in the CSU system has been 1 day, and that was in 2011. It's also possible that you won't strike on this campus and you will strike on a different campus, so you might not see it firsthand. We have never done a months-long job action like the recent Writers Guild of America strike, so we're not anticipating that. However, I can't tell you that it's absolutely not possible. One of the biggest questions I get is, don't you make plenty of money? Well, I wish I did. When I first became a professor, I guess in the back of my head, I thought I was going to be like Indiana Jones sneaking out of my office at the University of Chicago. In reality, we're a lot closer to K-12 teachers than anyone else. I looked up on Glassdoor what it said the average faculty member in the CSU made, and it said $111,000. There are full professors at Cal Poly Pomona, by which I mean like people at the top end of our ranks who do not make that much money. So I think there's a really large misconception about how much money we actually make. You are free to look up at Transparent California how much I make, how much President Coley makes. She, by the way, got a 29% raise just last year and makes close to $500,000 per year. The chancellor, who they just brought in, makes close to $1 million in compensation. A full-time lecturer at Cal Poly makes $54,000. Tenure track faculty members start at $80,000. You can see the disparity and you can see our challenges. You may have heard that recently the Board of Regents voted to raise tuition 6% per year for at least 5 years. That's going to equal a tuition increase of 34%. We were strongly in protest of this and continue to stand in solidarity with students resisting that change. They are not raising tuition to pay for our labor asks. There are 2 things that I can point to this to show you that is true. First, they decided to raise tuition before we asked for a raise. And secondly, despite the fact they voted to raise tuition 2 months ago, they still haven't offered us any more money. We know where that money's going, and it's unfortunately going to their investment accounts. They currently are sitting on $8 billion, with a B, in reserve money. Everything that CFA is asking for would be around $350 million. So it's just not possible that raising tuition is necessary unless they want to keep operating as they are, which is underfunding instruction and getting rich off of your tuition dollars. We think that enough is enough, and we hope that you agree with us. My favorite question is, can I help? Absolutely. Student voices are our strongest. We are really doing this because we care about the quality of your education, and nothing makes us happier than standing in solidarity with you on a picket line. If we do strike at Pomona, you are welcome to come with us. We will feed you and give you sunscreen. Another good thing you can do is write to the Board of Regents and write to your local legislatures in order to get them to bargain with us. Once we strike, we need legislatures telling the board to deal with us quickly to make it stop. You can also join with our student activist group, Students for Quality Education. They're on Instagram as Cal Poly Pomona SQE. They, along with several other student groups, have an open letter that they're currently soliciting signatures for to present to President Coley. It protests the tuition increase and stands with faculty in solidarity. We would love for you to sign. Thank you for your time. I understand that this is a fraught situation. I'm hopeful that this puts you a little bit more at ease and that you at least feel more informed. I encourage you to reach out to your instructors to ask specifics about how they will handle job action. If you have more questions or you want to join us, please contact us. We have information at cpp.edu/CFA.